Scientists are warning that the U.S. is going to lose a generation of talent because of the Trump cuts, particularly to the National Science Foundation. I was looking before we came on the show, and at least 1,653 active NSF research grants have so far been abruptly canceled. So they were approved by a multi-factor process. DOGE came in and said, no. So over 1,600 different studies. These are not easy things to vet, not easy things to get to the scientific method. This is what we need to prove something, abruptly cut for no explanation other than some 20-year-old decided it was so.
Yeah, the NSF is the only government-funded institution in this country that does the active investments into engineering, into biology, science, and research. And they're all peer-reviewed, and they do peer review of other studies from other individuals. Without that ability, without this major government investment, and without all the scientists that have now been let go, we can't do that. The U.S. will, in fact, fall behind. And when this first started, when Trump first came into office and DOGE started going through with their sledgehammer, destroying everything, France immediately came out and issued a statement to U.S. scientists saying, hey, come work for us. Come live in France. We'll bring you over here. We're not going to stifle you. We're not going to pull the rug out from under you. We'll become the leader in sciences in the world. Why not? They are actively trying to poach our scientists and researchers, and I can't blame them. I mean, why not get ahead as the U.S. continues to fall behind? Because as you said, you have these 19 and 20-year-olds working at DOGE who have no idea about any of this. They're not biologists. They're not engineers. They're tech guys. And they're not even good tech guys. And they're the ones that made these decisions that could set back medical research by 30 to 50 years. Engineering advancements going to be set back. This is going to harm the United States for decades to come in ways that these little kids can't even wrap their brains around yet.
Well, and this is just more political reactionism from the right. 60% of these grants are in states that voted for Joe Biden, and 12% of all the grants that were cut were targeted at Harvard specifically, which Trump has been grinding that axe almost this entire second term.
So, as per usual, this administration turns everything political. If you did need to cut scientific grants, perhaps you actually did go through them and you realized, hey, wait a minute, there are some redundancies. We don't need all of this, or this study is not going to further mankind in any way. We'll get rid of that. But no, they said, look at the blue states. Find out what's happening there. Find out what's happening at the higher learning institutions that I hate, and get them specifically. Let's punish the blue states because we don't like smart people. This goes back to the 2004 election. That is when they really tried to turn this country against the so-called elites, the smart people. Oh, they went to an Ivy League school. Obviously, they're evil and bad. That's what they were saying about John Kerry. He lives in a mansion. He married the Hines lady. Obviously, he's disconnected. George W. Bush, he's your down-home guy. You just love to have a beer with him, right? They did that. This was a calculated move a couple decades ago to turn the country against the elites, against the scientists and the smart folks. They did it with Al Gore too, with the climate scientists. This is the natural conclusion of it. Let's get rid of all the scientists because they're just these liberal elitists telling us what to do.
Yeah, this anti-intelligentsia movement has been going on, as you say, for quite a long time. And it's remarkable that, and then we see it even in the comment section or on our video, these people who don't know anything about anything, you're not competent enough to have a minimum wage job, much less opine on great matters of science and state. They're all experts. They were COVID experts, and now they're tariff experts, whatever, dear leader tells them they're an expert in. And I'm sure that is very gratifying because you don't have to go to school. You don't have to get the PhD. And then you can be just as good as them and tell them what to do. To point this in a number that we can all understand, every dollar over the last 75 years in NSF funding has returned to the taxpayer between 150 and 300% returns, according to reporting. So that's between $1.50 and $3 for every dollar we invested in one of these grants, the U.S. taxpayer got back. It is incredible the tremendous innovations that they've made from this money. And because some 20-year-old who goes by the handle Big Balls decided, oh, this is an evil institution, I'm going to cut it, and it was done.
Well, because, I think you bring up a great point. They only look at the one side of the equation. Oh, we're spending money. Spending money is bad. We should be saving money. They don't look at the other side of it that says, well, whoa. This isn't spending. This is investment. This is what we're getting back. So they're making decisions on half of the equation without even seeing the answer. And that's the biggest problem. Environmental regulations, by the way, and this is a number I've thrown out for many years, for every dollar we spend on environmental regulations, we generate $6 to $7 of economic activity. So a $6 to $7 return on that $1. But all we hear about is, well, these environmental regulations cost us so much. Well, they're making 600 to 700 times what we're putting into it. So I'd say that's a pretty damn good investment for anybody who has any kind of, money sense. Getting 600% back on your initial investment is a hell of a return.
Well, and we're seeing with his big, beautiful bill a 56% reduction in the current $9 billion that NSF normally gets. It is insane to me that you're seeing a cut here. I mean, $9 billion is real money, but the return is great. On the other hand of the equation, to use your metaphor, they're spending $45 billion trying to build more prisons for detainees, for immigrant detainees. And that is something we are not seeing dollar for dollar return on. That is just money going into corporate America, as most of these facilities, if not all of them, are being run by for-profit companies. In particular, when we were doing research for another episode, Louisiana was one of the highest rates of incarceration in the country. According to a 2017 law, they started lowering those numbers down and the facilities were going out of business. So now they're stuffing them full of immigrants. Even though Louisiana does not share a border with any country other than U.S. states, they are the second largest detention facility population in this country because they're stuffing them in the empty prisons.
What gets me about all of this is just the fact that we can't actually even have these discussions either. Because if you watch this on cable news, when they talk about these things, nobody brings up the returns. It's buried at the end of this report. I mean, this is a 4 or 5 page, really well-written report, but it's not until the very end, the last couple paragraphs, where they finally mention, oh, by the way, we make a lot of money off of the things we spend. That ought to be the headline. That ought to be, first or second paragraph. This is top page before the fold information that the public needs to know. But they barely mention it in print. They do not mention it at all on cable news. None of the talking head pundits out there bring this stuff up. It's infuriating that this information, which is easily available, is not something that ever comes up in the talking points, because that kills it. That kills those we're spending too much talking points. And even some of the best pundits on the left never talk about that, and it drives me crazy.
Well, and scientists and engineers, famously not the best people skills, some of them, they're not PR people. They're not used to having to sell why it's good that people won't die, why it's good that we're curing disease, why it's good that we're making life more comfortable and everybody more prosperous. That's not something historically they've had to do. And they're not good at it. Whereas you have the right constantly beating the drum and just pointing to a dollar out of context, out of reality, and then fear-mongering. And fear is a powerful motivator, as opposed to hope and optimism, which is what scientists and engineers have to offer us all.